You can hardly wait, but I will not introduce it, but I will introduce Julia Kirby, who is our curator of the program. And Julia will share with you, in a sense, the reasoning behind the super exciting topic for Drucker Forum 2024. Over to you, Julia.
Okay, thank you, Johan. Thank you to everyone who's joined us today. I feel like I now get the pleasure of serving the dessert or maybe putting the icing on the cake of this event, and because it's to announce the theme of our next Drucker Forum in November. And so we've been talking so far about this 5-year program to accelerate the shift to what we're calling the next management. And that is really this large scale effort that sits at a level above all the various activities, you know, the conference and the research agenda of the Vienna Center for Management Innovation and our annual Drucker Challenge essay contest that we run for young professionals and students and other activities. But anyway, one of the elements that we will align with this agenda, you know, we'll pull under that umbrella theme, will be the content of our next several annual Drucker Forums. And I suspect that everyone here, or most everyone here, has been to one or more of these terrific gatherings in Vienna and probably knows the history of them. They began in 2009 when Richard and Ilse Straub wanted to honor the centenary of Peter Drucker's birth in Vienna and to bring Drucker's widow, Doris, back to what was also her hometown for that occasion. No one knew then that what was intended to be a one-off celebration would turn into this annual event, and more importantly, this ongoing, vibrant community that has this shared interest in engaging with, you know, the biggest management issues of our time year after year. But so part of the announcement that I'm making today under this umbrella of the next management is that we will, for the next several years, focus one at a time on the biggest challenges of running organizations and explore what next looks like within each of those areas. So every year we're going to take stock of how it has been done and highlight how that traditional way of managing now falls short given new conditions and capabilities. And most importantly, we're going to showcase innovative solutions that are part of or that point the way toward the next better way of managing in that realm. So I know there's a slide we can put up here, but for this first edition of that series, we're going to be focusing on what, you know, I think maybe the most famous area of Drucker's interest, and that's the realm of knowledge work and knowledge workers. So as you may know, Drucker coined the term knowledge worker. And he did so because he was observing the wholesale shift going on from the industrial manufacturing era to the era of, you know, not just service-based, but knowledge-based businesses and organizations especially in the world's leading economies. So he knew that the prevailing practices of management had, you know, they'd all been devised in this age of industrial manufacturing, when the objective was, you know, efficient production, maximum asset utilization of, you know, property, plant, and equipment. It was all about kind of achieving the promise of scale efficiency as you cranked out the goods that large populations of people needed and wanted, as you know, as these middle classes grew and people gained prosperity. But he also saw that the management practices that were geared to raising the performance of manufacturing operations were not the ones you would necessarily rely on if your goal was to raise the performance of a knowledge-intensive concern, like say a bank or an insurance company or an advertising agency or a government agency or a nonprofit organization. And so those kinds of organizations were increasingly where most people worked and where most managers needed to figure out how to accomplish objectives and keep raising performance. So just to quote Drucker, because he said it very plainly, he said the most important contribution management needs to make in the 21st century is to increase the productivity of knowledge work and knowledge workers. So in other words, as a manager, to figure out how to do your job well, as someone who's entrusted to raise the performance of an organization, you would need to rethink the management of work. So this topic of the next knowledge work, it's also the right topic of this year's forum because it is so fundamental to, our just determination to reassert that management is a fundamentally human-centered role. The job of the manager is to assemble people with different and complementary strengths and combine and give direction to their efforts so that they can collectively achieve important objectives that they all believe in and that none could achieve on their own. So Drucker, more than anyone, understood that management was as much about appreciating human psychology as it was about having an engineer's knack for process design or for technology application. It's really a role that's about realizing human potential.